Hi, this is Islamic Dad here. I'm going to do a video on what is sometimes referred to as narcissistic cooties. Again, something that I've seen mentioned a couple of times, but not really something that's addressed too often. Before I get started, I just wanted to do the whole YouTube spiel. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me more than you can imagine. YouTube's algorithm is a mess. I think that everyone knows that, and so having people subscribe is the only way to kind of get my video out there in front of people. So back to the actual topic. Narcissistic cooties was something that someone, I don't know who the first person was, noticed and gave it that term, and then other people kind of nodded their heads and in agreement once they heard what that term meant. And basically it's the idea that as much as we would like to think otherwise, our time around the narcissist does impact us to some degree. And that while we may start off as the very caring, empathetic person that wants to be supportive and cares deeply for others, that just being around the narcissist to the extent that we may be either in a long-term relationship or a marriage, or I would imagine even in a familial situation, that their habits and traits kind of rub off on us, and that we may not pick up those traits and behaviors to the degree that a narcissist has. But if, say, you're with a narcissist for 10 years, you're going to be a different person than you were before you met the narcissist, specifically with kind of these bad traits. And so I wanted to give some examples of my own that I have kind of struggled with post breakup, and kind of balancing things out. So I'll start with just right off the bat, the bad ones. The addiction, if you can call it that my ex had to social media. My ex-girlfriend always had her phone with her, and my ex-wife, who was completely different type of narcissist, also always had her phone with her, and to some extent was addicted to social media. And I know that for my ex-girlfriend, I joked, and like most jokes, there's an element of truth, that whenever we go on these fantastic trips, that she would take a lot of photos of herself, in these beautiful vistas behind her, and I would take a lot of photos of her with these beautiful vistas behind her. And so and for me, it's just like, it's a no-brainer. It's like, okay, if I'm in a relationship with this person, I want to take photos of them. It's like I see myself in the mirror all the time. Why do I need to take a photo of myself? It started off very alien. But that said, after being with my narcissist ex-girlfriend, for me, it's like she normalized that behavior for me. And so by the end of the relationship, I just had this idea of, oh, this is what normal people do. Normal people plaster their face all over Instagram. Normal people plaster their face all over Facebook. Normal people go on and on about their own lives and problems on Twitter. And I mean, it just goes on and on and on. That it's almost like living online in this really self-centered, bizarre way. And I'll be honest, like at the beginning of the relationship, the idea of posting selfies, I thought it was laughable. I mean, I just thought, like, basically, if you're putting a selfie of yourself up on social media, it's just so vain. I mean, it's so, gross. At least for me, it's just like, ooh, with that, that says so much about that person, that they would put a big photo of them, themselves smiling, pretending they're looking away or something. But by the end of the relationship, I was sometimes doing that. And, there might be a really nice sunset. And in the past, I would have just taken that photo of the sunset. And by the end of the relationship, I was doing this thing, holding the camera out in front of me, with the sunset behind me. And that was very, like I said, that was very normalized for me by the end of the relationship. And so once the breakup or the relationship ended, I've kind of had to go through, narcissistic cooties detox, where I'm kind of reevaluating some of these, habits, and just trying to sort things out as far as like, okay, what is me? What was her? What is healthy? What is unhealthy? And so, along the same lines, just simply, going into the relationship, initially, like I may have said, before, or maybe you picked this up through some of my other videos. I'm Gen X, and at this point in 2023, I consider myself very anachronistic. I feel like I'm living on an alien planet because of my values. And so I was raised that when you're in a relationship or a marriage, you put your partner's needs before your own. And the reason that relationships worked with that paradigm was that if you have two people doing it, it balances out. I would always be thinking of my, partner, and my partner would always be thinking of me. And so, for example, with my, ex-wife, there was a time where she was working at the hospital, and it was a snowstorm. And so, I knew that when she got off work, that she would have to, knock all the snow off the car, get the scraper, scrape all the ice off so that she could see, turn the heat on, wait 10 minutes for the, car to warm up. It was just, it was horrible. And so I set my alarm, woke up crazy early, like, 5 or 6 in the morning, drove my car through, the snow and the blizzard and stuff, parked, went to her car, knocked the snow off, scraped the windshield, and just left and, went back to bed. And then there were times when, we might be traveling, and I'm very habitual with my routines, and I always start my day with a Red Bull. And there was no Red Bull, where I was staying. And so my wife did the same thing, where she woke up at like 6 a.m., went to the nearest gas station, got a couple of Red Bulls, came back, put them in the refrigerator so that I would have them when I woke up. And again, like for me, being a, old school Gen Xer, that makes perfect sense to me. And and that's the thing. People that are like, oh, it's unhealthy, they can go to hell. When you have two people taking care of each other, it balances out and it works. And so that was where I was at before the relationship with my ex-girlfriend. And then by the end, I had been convinced to think in 2023 terms of everyone for themselves, me first, and that somehow it was healthy for everyone to only think of themselves and for everyone to put their needs and wants above everyone else's. And somehow this was some, kumbaya, wonderful, healthy, way to live and go through the world, day to day. And so again, post relationship, I'm kind of having to detox and reevaluate things and think, okay, is that really healthy, or is that just the way I need to survive in 2023? Or do I throw that out and just say, no, I'm going to go with the values that I grew up on because they feel right for me. And so, I just wanted to go over a couple of examples of, these narcissistic cooties, just because I think it's a good, idea for people that have been in relationships with narcissists, especially over a long period of time, to maybe stop and think, okay, I'm not a narcissist, but what are these narcissistic traits and behaviors that I might have picked up along the way? So hopefully this video's been helpful. Thanks.